Greetings everyone, David J. Coon with Qigong Awareness. This is my book, Qigong for Beginners, Your Path to Greater Health and Vitality. I'm an author, who knew? Some people did. Anyway, welcome to today's program. We're doing Qigong for Self-Healing today. This event is being sponsored by the Love, Peace, Amen Foundation, so thanks to them. We are able to provide this program to you today free of charge. So welcome wherever you're tuning in from. I have some people here who will be coming into camera in a little bit as well, practicing some Qigong practice with me. So a little bit warm-up conversation. So hopefully maybe you have your tea or you have your water. Feel free to keep that near you, because when you're practicing Qigong or you're going through any of these exercises, it's always good to have some water or some tea nearby. And if you haven't checked out Dr. Emoto's book on blessing, well, it's technically, the book is called Hidden Messages of Water. And if you haven't seen his teachings regarding blessing your water and how it changes the water all the way down to its molecular structure, I highly recommend checking out that book and that work, and then bring that knowledge back to you. Bring that knowledge back to you in your own Qigong practice. In fact, I speak about that in my Qigong book as well. So cheers, and say a nice little loving message over your water. Literally, by even just writing the word love on your water bottle, it changes the water all the way down to the molecular structure. That's pretty profound, especially when you understand that the body is 60%, 70% water, depending on what parts of the body we're talking about. So bless your water. So here's to you, little loving water for you. All right, so we're going to get into a little bit of background. We're going to warm up sort of easy here, go into some philosophy and theory and so on of traditional Chinese medicine, some things that I think are important anyway when it comes to Qigong. And then we'll get into some actual practices and so on. So where should we begin? So Qigong for Self-Healing. Let's just begin with that title and that idea. Qigong for Self-Healing. What is self-healing? Obviously, self-healing could mean a lot of different things, but here's how I would paint that picture. Self-healing is related to, obviously, you healing yourself. That's the obvious part. But for some people, that's like healing myself physically. For somebody else, that might be like, that's healing myself emotionally. For somebody else, that might be, wow, you know, my mind is like kind of crazy. Does it help with that? These are all things that Qigong practice influences. We'll talk a little bit about that. There's so much more I could say about it, but the thing I'll say in general that's important to understand is one of the beautiful things about practicing Qigong and some of the exercises that I'm going to show you, including some mini meditation practices and so on, is that you're working with the mind, the body, and the emotions all at the same time. And when we talk about energy, energy is housing all of those things. So energy is actually housing the body. We could also say the body's housing energy, but I said it very specifically that energy is housing the body. We also have energy housing the emotions, and that is why, one of the reasons why Qigong is such an effective art and practice to deal with our emotions, not in the same way that we might sit down with a psychotherapist and talk about everything that's happened in our life. But not that that's, for some people, that's a good thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's just not what we do in Qigong practice. But in Qigong practice, we're actually addressing that body of knowledge, that information that's there, because that information goes with us wherever we go. It's with us all the time. And I could get really metaphysical about that, and I might a little, but let's just start with that idea that that energy body, your emotions, goes with you wherever you go. And in fact, the Buddhists, for example, will refer to your emotional body and the connection to your emotions as your past. And so that means you're carrying your past around with you wherever you go. So if you've ever noticed someone say to you, oh, you know, I always date the same people, or I always get the same job, or, you know, I moved here, I tried to get away from X, Y, and Z, and I moved right next door to X, Y, and Z. And this is why a lot of teachers will say you can't escape yourself, because your emotional past is going with you wherever you go. So let's ask the question now for some who may or may not understand this. Let's just talk about it a little bit. Does the emotional past, do you think, have anything to do with what's going on in your physical body? The answer is a big yes, 100%. Does your emotional past have anything to do with where you work? 100%. Does your emotional past have anything to do with the people that you date, the people you divorced, the people you live next door to? 100%. This is called, also in New Age language, it is called the law of attraction. Magnets coming together. Now, even though this is a New Age thing, Jesus, Buddha, Lao Tzu, others talked about this teaching. I'm going to speak to that a little bit and how that will lead us into some Qigong practice. But for a moment, just think in terms of law of attraction and electromagnetics. Basically magnets. Okay? So magnets, when they have the same kind of, or like, there's different ways to define this, but simply put, when they have a different charge, negative over here, positive over here, they connect. Okay? There's two sides of a magnet. You've probably all done this before. You turn the magnet around, and if you try and put the two sides together that are both positive charge, for example, you cannot bring it together no matter what you do. Wow. How many things are like that in your life? You're trying to get this job, but you just can't make it happen. You're trying to heal this thing going on in your body, but you just can't make it happen. The electromagnetics are not in that moment seemingly working in your favor. Are there ways to line things up purposefully and deliberately in your life? 100%. What is one of the things that I would say as a shortcut to you all, and that I use all the time, what is one of those things that you would want to use to line things up for yourself, and where and when would you want to do it? Well, do it on Sunday, for example, before the week starts and before you ever leave your house. And better yet, do it on Saturday, and then also do it Monday morning. And then you have a lot better chance of lining things up the way that you would like. Now, we don't have time in this program to go into every single detail about that, because I could go on about it all weekend. But I want to start with that idea, and I want you to understand that the emotional past, those are the memories of yesterday, they're with you and they're in your body. So take your hands for a moment and place middle fingers together and touch the lower rim of your belly button here. And then actually let's slide down a little further and go index finger to the lower rim of the belly button, okay? This area down here in your lower belly in Chinese medicine is referred to as the lower Dantian. In Western medicine, this area is being referred to as the second brain. First brain up here in the head, second brain down here. Where? In the gut. I'm going to step away for a moment, seemingly anyway, from law of attraction and point something out here. In traditional Chinese medicine, this right here, this area that you're holding is the epicenter of your health and your vitality. If this area is not functioning well, number one, the majority of the lymphatic, or the lymphatic system is here. Also, we have almost tripped up and said the nervous system, because that's true too. We have this big vagus nerve that runs down and through here. So this is a very, very important part of your body, and then you have all of these organs. So just by bringing your hands and your attention to this area, which we do in Qigong practice all the time, at least in many different disciplines, especially the ones that I teach. We want to bring attention here on a regular basis. So I want to just start you off with a physical practice, just seated where you are, just to kind of catch us up to speed here a little bit and bring the physical body along with us. So I want you to take a slow breath in through your nose. And I want you to try and, if it's slow, you'll notice that it raises your belly when you do that a little bit. And then I want you to exhale your breath through your nose. If you need to, for any reason, you can exhale through your mouth. And then I want you to repeat it again. So inhale through the nose, exhale through the nose. Each time, I want you to see if that lower belly is lifting a little bit, okay? And then I want you to do it one more time. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the nose. Good. And we're going to do one more, and this time, even though I want you to breathe slow, I want you to breathe in as deep as you can and raise that belly up as high as you can get it to go without straining yourself too much. And then exhale your breath. And I want you to notice that for most of you, you're going to feel like it's tight there. Like it's tight. There's a container there. Okay? This container, what does it contain? It contains a lot of things. But one of the things that it contains, this area here, is also referred to, especially in the vicinity of the navel center, the seat of your emotions. Let's think about that for a moment. So take a just regular breath. You can keep your hands there if you desire. It might be a good idea. If you get tired of it, you can remove your hands. This is an area that I highly recommend you reconnect yourself with simply by doing what I just showed you here, laying hands to the lower belly. And I recommend doing that literally from the comfort of your bed when you wake up in the morning. Set the alarm, set the timer for 15 minutes or something, and lay there and just hold your belly for 10 minutes. Or 15 if you desire. And later in the evening, I recommend the same thing, and I recommend starting to do this on a daily basis. So I'm going to jump around a little bit, hopefully keep you interested in the story, keep you awake, and help you understand some bigger pieces here. So when I was younger and I got involved when I was 15 and got involved in Qigong and martial arts and meditation and all of these kinds of things, traditional Chinese medicine, I had this spinal disease. So at that point, the doctors were saying, hey, your spine is looking pretty bad. You're developing a severe scoliosis. And then by the time 10 years went by, I'm 25 years old, and they say, your spine looks like you're 85 years old, filled with arthritis, lots of pain, all these different things I had going on. But here's the interesting thing. If you asked me, well, what's going on in your gut? I would have told you nothing. There's nothing going on in my gut is fine. I had no sensitivity to the emotions that were brewing there, just off my radar, okay? So it took many years of practice to start to sensate what was actually going on within me, which is what meditation is, by the way, Qigong being a form of meditation. Meditation is, let me stop, pause, take a look, and see what's going on inside of me. Why would we want to do that? Why would anyone want to do that? So, if you catch on at all to how the law of attraction works, it basically says that whatever state you're in, whatever mindset you're in, whatever attitude you have, kind of that whole package, whatever your consistent mood is, wherever your consistent attention is going, well, then that's what you're vibing with. And not just vibing with, that's what you are emoting. Emoting. Emoting, emotions, emoting, putting off energy, putting off vibes. that's what attracts certain situations and certain kinds of people in your life. So if you're someone who always attracts some kind of person that you don't like, that you don't appreciate it, you're timid out in the world, and then you sort of attract people who want to take advantage of you, you're emoting that. And this would be one reason why, because I was that person, by the way, when I was younger. So I got bullied and all kinds of things at school. I didn't know I was emoting. I didn't know I had this sign on my back that said, "Kick me." I didn't know, okay? But when I started looking inside myself, I found out, wow, there's a lot going on in there, okay? And so I want you to go back to placing your hands to that same area again, assuming you maybe moved your hands. I want you to place your hands there. We're going to do a short meditation with this to, again, just keep taking us in the right direction here. So holding that lower belly, and then I want you to take a breath again. And this time, if you're comfortable in doing so, I want you to close your eyes for a moment. And I want you to take that breath into your belly. And then I want you to take 2 more. So another breath in and out, and then another breath in and another breath out. So 3 breaths in total, 3 breaths out total. Okay? All right, good. So this is a very bare bones basic practice, and literally I've been doing practices like this and built upon practices like that over 40 years. So we could easily sit and do that, at least I could, and then teach you and so on. We could do it for an hour. But a lot of people can't sit and stay awake and stay aware and so on for an hour. This is one of the benefits of some of the other Qigong exercises I'm going to show you, because when you build up your Qi, you build up your energy reservoir, which the first reservoir in your body is, guess where? Lower Dantian. When you build up the energy here, you're going to have some greater energy reserves, and there is a much greater chance that you can then do some still meditation practices where you could potentially, over 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, go deeper into this understanding, because Jesus, for example, said the kingdom of heaven lives where? It lives inside of you. But you know what happens when the average person sits down, holds their hands on their belly, closes their eyes, and right after they take that first breath, what do you think happens? Many people fall asleep right there. That's how tired people are, and that's how low people's energy is in general. And it's not a judgment, it's just an observation. I've seen this many times. I've been in rooms full of people. I ask people to take 3 breaths. A lot of people don't even make it to the 3rd set of breaths. They pass out, and they're out, they're snoring. And so that is sleep. That's different than meditation. And so one of the things that we can do, I'm just going to reiterate what I said, hopefully you catch the concept, is I'm going to show you a series of exercises, in fact 5 of them today, that you can do that are standing power poses. These standing power poses will give you energy. And not just energy. Energy is a general term for, metabolism, energy from food. I drank some tea, I have a little more energy. I took some herbs, I have energy. I went for a run, I have some energy. Qi, in general, means energy. And in traditional Chinese medicine, when we talk about like raw qi or essence qi, we're talking about something called Jing. So not to confuse you with names and Chinese words and so on, but technically, we need Jing Gong J-I-N-G, gong, before you can have Qigong. Qi means energy. But in order for you to have energy, think of a plant for a second. Imagine a plant. Okay? You look at the plant. Plant's doing all right, but it's kind of brown and wilting and it's hunkered over. It's not looking great, right? It has energy. It has energy enough to live. But its essence, its vitality, its rawness, its jing. Jing means essence. Its essence is going out of the plant. If that plant doesn't build up its essence, it cannot have metabolism. A similar idea would be like, let's say you've run out of energy. It's hard to get out of bed or get out of the house or whatever the case may be, right? Then it's hard to go out in the world and move around. It takes energy to go out in the world and move around. But in order to have energy and go out in the world and move around, you also need this thing called jing, which is that really, what I would call a very subtle qi. And so if you're not familiar with Qigong practice, these types of Qigong practices, it's going to be very subtle. It will sneak up on you. But that's why I'm going to give you these 5 power poses. If you practice them individually and or collectively together, you're going to notice that, you know, in general, you'll say, oh, I have more energy. But really what you're saying is I have more vitality, I have more jing, and yes, from now having more jing, having more vitality, yes, now I can have more energy. Now I can get more involved in other things and go out there and work out or do more Qigong practice or whatever. So we'll get to these practices in a moment or two here, but this is where we're headed. So I want you to pause for a moment, and I want you to go right back to holding your lower belly. And I want you to, one more time, take 3 breaths. In through the nose, out through the nose if you can. And then do that again 2 more times. Good. So the lower Dantian is the first reservoir. You could also think of it like a battery. It absorbs energy, it hangs on to energy, but it can also become depleted. When that reservoir becomes depleted of energy, things don't work real well. So we want to rebuild the energy there. How do we do it? One of the first things to understand is wherever your mind goes, energy will follow. That's true in general. But we're not just saying the mind going anywhere. We're saying mind going to this reservoir, mind going to this battery here. And as my mind goes to this battery, I have the ability to start charging that battery. Okay? This practice could also be done standing, and you could be absorbing energy through your feet that way, but we can also do it in a chair, okay? So, without further ado, we'll come back to some of this conversation and so on, but let's go to these 5 practices. I want to take you through the first run of them, and then we'll do them probably about 3 times before we complete today, so just to make sure you've got it and have some different information regarding how to practice it, when to practice it, stuff like that. Okay, so I'm just going to move my stuff out of the way, and we will get started with these exercises. So if you all want to come out there, you guys want to come over here, I'm going to move this one out of the way. All right. So sometimes we have various movement practices that we do, right? And we'll do just a couple, 2, 3 here, just as a little warm-up. And then we'll go into some of these, what I'm calling kind of power poses or stationary poses. But just a little warm-up. This is good for the lymphatic system. It's also nice to Just get yourself warmed up for practice. And you're just going to brush your hands on your pants like you're brushing off water. Like so. And we're going to go again. And again. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to go again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we have this practice that's called gentle drum, where we're just going to lift the heel off the floor, or you can keep your legs flat on the floor. And we're just twisting, opening up the spine, and we're letting the hands kind of tap on the body here, okay? And wherever's fine, whatever's comfortable. A lot of times, though, that this is traditionally taught where you tap the lower back area, okay? This is designed to be related to the kidneys. Lower Dantian is related to the kidneys. Jing is related to the kidneys. As we get more technical in the field of traditional Chinese medicine, you don't need to know all that or remember it all right now, but maybe catch a little piece here or there along the way. So, and then right from here, we're going to let that unwind. Going to kind of like hold the floor with our feet. And then from this position, I'm going to press my hands down toward the floor like this. My knees are slightly bent. My chin roughly parallel with the floor. And I'm going to hold, pause, observing what's happening with my breath, my digestion, my saliva or lack of saliva. Just kind of noticing, observing what's going on there. All right, those are just a few, 3 little warm-up practices, but here comes our first official practice. So you can think of this as like a big Buddha belly, but you're holding here a Qi ball. Okay, so from this position, I'm just holding my hands out roughly in, kind of just below my navel center and in the vicinity of my navel center, and I'm holding like this. And we'll talk about how long we might want to do each one of these, etc. But I'm going to take you through a brief run of the 5. So you see them for the first time here. Breathing in and out through the nose, observing your breath, whatever it's doing. Sneezing is a clearing from the root chakra. Energy shooting all the way up from the root, clearing through the system. And then we're going to go into a second exercise here, which is going to be a filler within the 5, but we're going to come up here. A lot of times we call this bringing down the heavens or waterfall. Like imagine standing in a waterfall. Exhale here through the mouth actually. And then here, light inhale through the nose. If for any reason your arms don't go all the way up to the ceiling or something, you can always just go as high as the shoulders, just literally like a mini waterfall to here. Exhale here. Or if you feel like it, sometimes you do, you can go all the way up, reach. And exhale right here. I'm going to let the hands now float from the wrists. See how my fingers are hanging? I'm going to bring this up and I'm going to try and also hang my elbows. The reason I want to do this is that I don't want to have too much tension shrugged up in my shoulders. I want to try and have this relaxed and my arms are hanging. So we went from waterfall here, inhale. We went here, exhale. The hands came down, float them back, float them up. We're now going to turn them here. And this is essentially the same thing we were doing when we were down in the lower Dantian. This is now in this vicinity of what is called middle Dantian in Chinese medicine. I'm going to let the hands come down, come up into a waterfall. Inhale, exhale. I'm going to take both hands and I'm going to place them right here on my hips. If my one hand over here looks a little weird, it's because it's on the microphone. So, but you're just placing your hands on your hips. This is a power pose. This is also good for clearing frustration. This is also good for the gallbladder meridian. Depending on exactly where you're placing your thumb, there's a gallbladder point right here in the upper buttocks there. And so we're holding this here. But again, this is also a power position. So a lot of times you'll see police officers stand like this in the road. See teachers stand like this. If a mom's getting frustrated with the rowdy kids, she might stand like this in the kitchen and say, "Hey, kids, calm it down," or whatever. And this is also a pose that you'll see on the cover of a lot of magazines. Okay, people will be in their business suit or they'll be in their basketball uniform or whatever the case may be, and they're standing like this. This is a Qigong posture. Inhale, exhale through the nose. You can exhale through the mouth if you need to. Typically, when we're standing still like this, we'll just breathe in and out through the nose. There's not much of a need typically to breathe out the mouth. So if possible, you're just breathing in and out through the nose. You're watching your breath. There are modern studies being done on these types of poses that suggest it takes approximately 2 to 3 minutes, and this will change your biochemistry. This will literally start changing what's going on in your blood. This will literally start changing what's going on in the chemistry of your blood, and it affects mood and attitude and all of these kinds of things. In Chinese medicine and Qigong practice, we would also say it affects your Wei Qi. Wei Qi is your protective energy. So there's a reason that the police officer stands like this in the middle of traffic. It's a power pose. It's a Wei Qi posture, and there's an energy field that goes along with it. You may also notice it makes me, in this case, you at home, makes you bigger. It makes you look significantly bigger standing in this posture, in this pose. Make sure your knees stay slightly bent with this one so you're not cutting off the blood circulation. And then relax the hands, come up, inhale. This is technically our 4th exercise, but we also put it in as a filler. And so we're going to come up here, inhale, exhale. And we're going to make this a set of 5 count, but we're going to make it a 6 count exercise set. So go ahead and whatever's comfortable, like, you know, if you have to do this at home for whatever reason, your shoulders are bothering you, you can't do that. Or you can reach to here. But if you can reach straight up, you're just reaching straight up like this. It's going to be our 5th position right here. So I'm actually just adding this one as an extra, which I was thinking I might do last night. And as I'm feeling it out, I'm liking the idea of adding this one, so we're adding this one right here. Page 69 of my book, you'll see me standing above tree line on top of a big tree that's mostly dead. I'm standing on top of it on the edge of a Colorado cliff. And then we're going to slowly lower our hands to the final position in our set, and we're going to bring our hands right here to middle Dantian, which is also the heart space. I want you to notice what's going on with your saliva. I want you to notice what's going on with your blood flow, circulation, digestion. And then what do you, in general, feel going on in your body? You may feel some, bubbling or some tingling or some shaky sensations. I recommend closing your eyes with this one for a moment. Knee staying slightly bent. Breathing in and out through your nose. And let the hands come down. We're going to reach up. Inhale. This is our waterfall again. Exhale. Sink your body weight as you're coming down. Inhale, exhale. Good job. That's our first time through. Go ahead and get a sip of water, have a seat. Let's have a little conversation about that practice and how this relates to what we've also started talking about. Good spot for me. All right. So it's really important to drink plenty of water. If you don't like water, try and get some type of tea, maybe that's not caffeinated, that you can also drink. Like flavor your water with lemon or lime. This is a really good thing to do. And especially if you're interested in this mysterious art of Qigong and things like medical Qigong, this is very much like an internal massage practice. So there's a lot of things that start coming out of your tissues, and that's going to enter into your blood. And it's entering your blood in order to be cleaned out of your system. So if you want to get it out of your system, drink the water. And keep things moving. And actually that's a perfect segue into this idea, which is very common in Asian practices such as Qigong, such as martial arts, such as Tai Chi, even meditation and so on, this idea of flow. So the general philosophy behind traditional Chinese medicine is that flow is what heals. So it's not always about diagnosing a specific thing, oh, you have this, oh, you have that. There's more of that happens today in traditional Chinese medicine because traditional Chinese medicine is trying to compete on the level that it is with Western medicine, and they're kind of paralleling each other, especially in the West, but not just in the West, in the East as well. And so in certain instances, it's becoming more diagnostic and focus on this diagnosis and so on. But the general overall philosophy says, if the rivers of the body are flowing, then you have health, you have vitality, and you even have prosperity. So there's this idea of flow, keeping things flowing, keeping the mind flowing, keeping the emotions flowing, keeping the blood flowing, keeping the lymphatic system flowing, keeping the electrical conductivity that moves through the body, called qi, flowing, keeping the electrical conductivity that speaks to all the different cells and tells them whether they have too much of this, too much of that, you know, exchange this versus exchange that. All of that's going on, all of those different communications and so on happening in the body, and it's all related to flow. And it's kind of interesting because if you speak to certain people who are into the Western world, let's just say, you don't hear your average doctor talking about homeostasis, but they studied it in biology. They studied it along the way, but you don't have a regular doctor typically say, oh, the body likes to find homeostasis, which really means what? Balance and harmony, right? You don't hear the average Western physician say that. The Eastern physician typically does say that. They don't use the word homeostasis. They use the words balance and harmony. So to some people, they say, oh, balance and harmony, what a bunch of woo-woo. But Western medicine is based on this idea and this understanding that homeostasis is a thing. The body always wanting to come back to homeostasis. What would be an example of that? An example of that would be the temperature in the body. It's regulated. The body always wants to come back right around that certain temperature, right? So, and we could go on, right? Breathing. The body wants to, in a healthy person, revolve around a certain number of breaths per minute. Heartbeat, heart rate, right? It's all related to homeostasis, harmony, and flow, right? So, what is the nemesis to homeostasis? What is the nemesis to flow? It's stress. But you know what's crazy about that? As soon as you say that, it like stresses people out, because you know, it's like, oh, like how many of you, and you know this because I've heard this story from some of you already, right? You went to the doctor and literally you weren't that stressed right up until they told you had high blood pressure, and then your blood pressure went up like 40 more points because the doctor said, I'm concerned about your blood pressure. And then blood pressure's like up through the roof, right? So what that also shows us is it shows us the power of the mind, shows us the power of suggestion. Okay, this is very important. We'll be getting into that in different ways, already are, but right now I want to hover around that idea of flow though, okay? So that's the flow related to the body. How can we do that? Increase this flow. Qigong practice, breathing practice, meditation practice. What's an example of the body mind being out of flow? Anxiety. When you have anxiety, the body is no longer in homeostasis. The body's no longer in balance, it's gone out of balance. How can we get ourselves back? Use this in the doctor's office, didn't you? To bring down your blood pressure. Carrie's not here today, but Carrie is another one of our teachers. She did that as well. She brought it down like 40 points. She said to the doctor, give me just a minute. Doctor went out for a few minutes, came back, and the doctor literally wanted to know how Carrie lowered her blood pressure by 40 points. And so Carrie ended up teaching her this waterfall exercise, okay? So getting back to balance, getting back to harmony, getting back to homeostasis, drinking clean water to the best of your ability, blessing your water, okay? Keeping things flowing, moving your body, keeping things flowing. We're going to come back to our power practices again, but I wanted to share something that I haven't shared yet in any of these free to the public, you all at home, you all here, programs from the Love, Peace, Amen Foundation. Notice the words in the program, love, peace, amen, right? These are spiritual words on the level that they are, right? And I wanted to give you a hint into something. So take a sip of your water, take 3 breaths after you take the sip of water. That's to turn your mind on and your brain on. And I'm going to share a little something with you. I hope that it goes a long way to helping you deal with a whole bunch of things that you have going on in your life right now. And I hope that my healing myself, again, programs about self-healing, right? So hopefully in me healing myself, I can pay it forward to you and help you to heal yourself. So let me come back to the very beginning when I said this idea about healing ourself, and also this idea of law of attraction. Because a lot of times I will emphasize the body for obvious reasons. The body is at the epicenter of your world, but so is your mind and so are your emotions. Very important, right? And I haven't yet talked too much about the metaphysical, but we're starting to give some awakening, some life to the metaphysical. Metaphysical meaning, in this case, sort of beyond the physical, beyond the everyday mental, and beyond the everyday emotional, and beyond just the like the thinking mind, but entering something even deeper called presence, or in Zen they'll say no mind, for example, or empty mind, or clear mind. I was on a journey to heal my spine, 100% yes. It's not a good diagnosis to get when you're 12, and then when you're 15, and then again, even after I've been practicing Qigong and all this great stuff for 10 years, and I am told my spine looks like I'm 85 and I'll be crippled in the next 5 years, like crippled, like your spine's gonna crush your lungs and all these other kinds of things. And so I always sought physical healing, that's an obvious, but what went right along with it was that I sought peace, I sought inner peace, I sought healing from that perspective of inner peace, inner clarity. Don't even know what it means, have some sense of it. It was like that, in the early years, but I wanted it. And I sought it, and that's why I was drawn to these things like meditation and spiritual practices and all the stuff that I studied, psychology and Zen Buddhism and Taoism and so on, because I was drawn to the flow, which I didn't have, and I was drawn to the peace that I might glean, because I already back then had the thought in my mind that if I had peace, which is the opposite of stress, then I'd already be healthy, right? That was the logic. If I had peace, I would be healthy, because then I wouldn't have stress. And I also saw that everyone around me was suffering, basically everybody. And a lot of people, you know, drinking and putting the covers over their head, like really not wanting to face life, you know, really struggling, you know, and hurting. And of course then had the physical diseasements and so on, right? So I want to throw out a few teachings to you, and then I want to bring it back to our physical practices. We'll take it a little bit further with this, these 6 exercises. All right, so the first one, we'll go with law of attraction. But I hinted earlier to this idea that that's a New Age idea on the level that it is, but it's actually an ancient idea. Jesus taught it, that which ye sow, ye shall reap. He said there's one law. As you sow, you'll reap. The Buddha taught that same teaching, called it karma. For every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. Jesus taught the same teaching. He said, as you do unto others, so shall it be done unto you, which is why you should love your neighbor as yourself. Because if you love your neighbor as yourself, then you'll start freeing yourself from what you're suffering with. But here's the thing, and this is my take, I know, so hopefully my take is helpful, but it's my take. Most people are waiting for someone else to do it. They want the other people to be forgiving. They want the other people to be tolerant. They want the other people to be peaceful. They want the other people to stop fighting. They want the other people. If you're in that category, I highly recommend coming over here to a different category, because you'll be waiting a very long time. You know. You may never get there. And these teachers, they talked about inner peace. Qigong is a practice of developing inner peace. We're just scratching the surface of it here today, but it is a practice of discovering inner peace, because we're learning to work with our own energy. We're learning to work with our emotions. We're learning to work with our mental states through our practice, by connecting breath and movement and or stillness, etc. So, Jesus had a primary teaching. One of his primary teachings was the teaching of forgiveness, and this is where I want to go with this. And then we're going to jump to the Buddha, we're going to jump to Lao Tzu, and then we're going to jump back into some Qigong practice. So, why forgiveness? Forgiveness, if you understand the teaching at a deeper level, the teaching means let it go, give it up. As Jesus would say, give it up to the Holy Spirit. Let it go, give it up. Okay? He also used to say, turn the other cheek. Look away from it. Just turn away from it. Let it go. Okay? Do you realize that that puts you more in the flow? If you're hanging on to something, you're fighting with something and someone, and you want to take them down, you realize you're going down with them? It's just how it works. And so if you desire peace more than you desire the disease in your body, more than you desire the pain in your body, more than you desire the suffering, and more than you desire, check this one out, catch it if you want to. I'm not judging anyone, I'm just here to point these things out. Because the ego, the little mind, doesn't forgive for one reason primarily. It would much rather be right about the situation. And it's willing to go down in flames as long as it can be right. So here's the thing. If you'd rather be free, then you'd be wise to forgive yourself for ever getting involved with that person, for example. You'd be wise to forgive the situation. Why? Jesus told you. For example, you've heard the teaching, I'm sure, where he said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. The Buddha would call it a practice of unconsciousness. They're unconscious of what they're doing. So, the teaching was, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. And it's kind of obvious. So if I stay here with those people, blaming those people, judging those people, being right about those people, yelling at them on my TV, I might give myself a heart attack. The question is, could I potentially help the world a lot more if I were to focus on myself, forgive myself, forgive my transgressions, forgive other people's transgressions, and move on with my life? That's what I did, and I healed my spine in the process. So I highly recommend it. Let's look at Buddha's teaching for a moment, and what I want to point out is that it's the same teaching. And I want to point out Lao Tzu's teaching, and I want to point out that it's the same teaching. And you hear me, David Coon, saying the same teaching today, and yet I'm referencing these three individuals. It's the same teaching, the same teaching, the same teaching, in my opinion. So take it for what it's worth. But again, hopefully it's helpful to you. So the Buddha said, essentially, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do, only he didn't use that language. He said, have compassion for them and have compassion for yourself. The Buddhists are very big on the word and the practice of compassion. Compassion for me, compassion for you. Now, what's the other little side note, beautiful thing related to Qigong practice that brings together both forgiveness and compassion, and it happens to be the last exercise in our exercise set, this prayer pose here? That's the accent on the heart space. When you forgive, truly, it's coming from the heart. When you have compassion, it's truly coming from the heart. Now, a lot of people, a little side note as well, a lot of people are very afraid to forgive. They're very afraid to have compassion for too much. Gotta have trepidation in the world. Can't trust, everybody. I didn't trust anybody when I was growing up. I didn't trust my parents. I didn't trust the bullies at school. Some of those bullies were my teachers. I didn't trust them. I didn't trust the other kids. I didn't trust my parents when I came home. I was terrified. And so I had a spinal disease. Yes, I had a physical accident that caused it, but there was a lot of emotional things that went into it that then caused that. Anyway. I did something crazy. Some people would say, crazy. But the Buddha did it. Jesus did it. Lao Tzu did it. It was crazy. I wasn't the first one to come up with the idea. But I was like, you know what? I'm literally going to just put myself in situations and so in Buddhism, they would call it ahimsa. Harmlessness to myself, harmlessness to you. I'm literally just going to put myself in a state of harmlessness, even though this person is acting aggressive. And even myself, being a martial artist with multiple black belts at this point and so on, like somebody might say, well, David, that person's being pretty aggressive. Don't you think you should hold your ground? No. Nope. Ahimsa. Harmlessness to you, harmlessness to me. And when you take, let me use the analogy of a dog. Why does a dog attack? When he or she senses that you are afraid. Which just kind of sucks, right? Because you're there, there's this big dog, you're like, I know I'm not supposed to be afraid, but I'm afraid. Well, why is the dog getting more aggressive as you're getting more and more afraid? You're like, I don't want to mess with this dog, right? I don't want to be feeling fear. Now the dog's keying in on the fear. We got a problem here. I've learned to do the same thing in certain instances with dogs as well. You have to be fearless. Fearless, in this case, is not fearless. It's ahimsa. I'm harmless. you don't have to worry about me. I'm not going to attack you at all. I'm also not afraid of you. I'm not going to say that you're going to achieve that state overnight, but this is worth meditating on. Harmlessness, forgiveness, compassion are all practices of the heart. These teachers taught the same thing. Jesus said, you have a problem? Give it up to the Holy Spirit. Lao Tzu said, you have a problem? Practice doing nothing. Meaning, don't react. Don't go fight against it, because that which you resist will persist. Let it go. Practice doing nothing. It's called Wu Wei. Practice doing nothing. Which, when you practice doing nothing, keeps you in the flow of life. Okay, a little mini conclusion. Everybody take your hands and go ahead and go like this. And then take your hands and go like this. Like that represents fighting, right? How can you receive good things when you're in a state of conflict? You can't hold them. You can't hold them, you cannot receive them when you are in a state of conflict. And I know that the mind will say, those guilty bastards over there, they don't deserve it. I'll forgive her and him, but I'm not forgiving those people, whatever. But here's the thing, whoever you don't forgive, that's something you hang over your own head. It's something to meditate on, okay? So we have forgiveness practice. You like that version? Go the Jesus route. You like the word compassion? You like the word ahimsa? Go the Buddhist route. You like the idea of, I'm going to sit back and not do anything. I'm going to put my feet up on this chair. By the way, Qigong is a practice in some ways of doing nothing because it's putting you in the flow of things. And then you have the Lao Tzu path. All of these practices are things that I've been practicing for the last 40-ish years, and they make a massive difference and will make a massive difference in your life with every single thing that you are journeying, every problem that you have, every person that you're in conflict with, every single one of them. So I highly recommend meditating a little bit, contemplating these ideas, these principles, these practices, seeing what you can do with them. Because life flows better when you exercise these practices. There's less stress, there's less fear, and therefore there's less conflict, and therefore you tend to be healthier in your body. In the martial art of Aikido, which I studied, and I'll also say briefly because it's on the side of this, as is Tai Chi really, these are practices of like absorbing any kind of attack and just redirecting it. It's never force versus force. So these principles are very common when it comes to Qigong, Tai Chi, meditation, Aikido, certain martial arts like this. So just something to contemplate. So we're gonna let that go. Change the slide, take a sip of your water. After you take a little sip of your water or your tea, come back and place your hands on your lower Dantian. We're going to see if we can integrate that with 3 breaths. So hands right back to the lower belly. Remember, I recommend doing this in bed when you first wake up in the morning. Majority of your lymphatic system lives here. This is a big epicenter for your nervous system. Second brain is here. Your gut feeling, your intuition lives here. So there's another example. If your gut is tied up in knots, how good do you think your intuition is going to be? Not very good. But if you could learn to relax your gut and your emotional state, then it's easier to have a strong intuition. The good news is, it's also very helpful to simply hold your hands here because it's really good for your body. Hold your hands here just long enough while you're lying in bed. Probably take, for most of you, probably take several days or a week, might even take 2 weeks for some of you. For some of you, maybe even 3 weeks. But if you keep practicing it, somewhere along the way, you're going to get a deep breath that comes right here. Like it just happens. You're holding, and then all of a sudden, like a nice deep breath fills the lower abdominal area. This is very, very important, and that is an excellent start in the right direction. So go ahead and take one more in-breath, one more exhale there. To lower Dantian. And now I'm going to shift my chair. You can shift yourselves at home there. We're going to come right back to this standing. Practice, get into it a little bit more here. Go into it a second time. Come on up here, guys. So I'm going to have you go ahead and just rub your hands together. Another little warm-up practice here for our second round of this. This is another way to work with lower belly, work with lower Dantian. Hands holding lower belly. Inhale, exhale your breath. So right here, this is the seat of our emotions. This is also our gut. This is also the seat of our intuition as well. Our intuition lives here. Yes, it lives in the third eye as well. A lot of times we say that the third eye is associated with intuition, and it is. But the gut is like this gut instinct, this like, if you hear about a soldier, who avoided his troops being killed because they turned left instead of right, things like this. That's a gut feeling. I felt it in my gut, and then I saw it in my head. Maybe I saw it in my head or I heard it in my head, but it's in my gut. So inhale, exhale. And then just bring your hands out to the side, and we're just kind of shaking hands here once again. This is like shaking water off, and then we're going to shake water to the ceiling here a little bit. And then we're going to take our hands and come down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we can go right into this gentle drum here. Again, these are just warm-up practices. Good sometimes, if you have time, to do a little warm-up set before you go into your core set. But you don't have to. Like, if you don't feel like it, don't have the time, or you just don't feel like it today, whatever, that's no problem. You can go right out to the park, go right to this position. I recommend, if you could do this by like a big tree, it's an awesome place to do it. And also, if there's water nearby, great place to do it. You're going to go hold right here. Big chi ball here holding. Make sure your knees stay bent during this one, just enough to not cut off the blood circulation in the legs. And if you need to practice this one seated, can totally practice this one seated as well. So this one starts working with the lower Dantian. As you're working with the energy of the lower Dantian, I want you to just notice what's going on in your digestion, what's going on in your saliva. Eventually, what's going on in your breath. So in the first round, we went from this position and we went right into like a waterfall clearing in between the next exercise. But in this one, actually, I'm going to take us right from here. We're going to float our wrists up. We're going to go a little higher. We're going to the next station along the way. This is middle Dantian. Remember, elbows drooping heavy. You want to imagine you have puppet strings holding up your wrists. And if you're new to this one, you need to roll your shoulders or start over just to make your arms and shoulders more relaxed. It's totally okay. You can definitely do that. Later, we're trying to learn to let our elbows hang, let our shoulders drop. Imagine that our wrists are being held up by puppet strings. And again, these are practices that gather a fine energy, a very fine energy. Can help us rebuild our essence, rebuild our Jing and our Qi. From here, I'm going to start to lower my hands, kind of pull them around to the sides, and I'm going to go ahead and hold right here on the hips. One of our power poses here. Again, it takes about 2 to 3 minutes from the studies that I've seen to start changing your biochemistry, your blood, your Qi. Technically, you're changing your Qi sooner, but most of the research that's being done suggests that it takes about 2 to 3 minutes to see those changes in your blood. Again, this is one that could be done seated. If you are standing with this one, it may take a little time to get used to, so if 2 to 3 minutes is too much for you in the beginning, no problem. Just do a minute, shake it off, come back to it later, or again right now. Once again, watch what this is doing. What's happening with your saliva, what's happening with your digestion. Also, you want to have a certain amount of attention there, right at your forehead. I don't want you to have your mind up in the top of your head and your head's like hanging back and you look all saucy like you're gonna fall asleep or something. Bring your attention right there to the front of your forehead. Ideally, right in between your eyebrows. This area is called the third eye. This is where we bring our focus, our concentration, and it is the frontal lobe of the brain that sits there right behind the skull. And this is where we focus. And then take that focus, that attention, that awareness, and then walk it down to your navel center. Walk it down just below the navel center, and then walk it down both your legs, down into the feet, down into the ground. It'll take some time to learn to grow roots down into the ground. right there. I personally just got a nice breath shift. When you start building up just enough chi, just enough energy, all of a sudden a nice breath will just come. And in Oriental medicine, we actually say that it's the kidneys that control the inhalation. So as we're building up that qi and that jing in the lower Dantian, we start bringing some energy. It starts uplifting the kidneys. The kidneys then start to influence our breathing pattern. All right, so we're gonna let the hands come down and we'll go up. This is our waterfall. Inhale, exhale. We'll do 5 of these. There's 1, 2, 3. When ready, your speed. One more. Bring your feet closer together, right below your shoulders. Arms go up to some degree, so if you can go all the way up, great. If you can only go partial, that's good too. Whatever you can do. I actually taught a program in Atlanta some years ago, and one of the gentlemen who came, he could only raise one of his arms up to maybe like the top of his head. The other arm he couldn't even lift up past his waist. And by Sunday, I taught a 2-day program there, and by Sunday he was doing this, both hands up in the air. Qigong's pretty amazing in that regard. So, and he kept talking about it. He was very excited that he could put both his arms up in the air, which apparently he hadn't been able to do in like 2 years prior to that. So there's a little bit of the mystery of Qigong. Now let's let those hands lower right into a prayer position. And this becomes the icing on your cake, the cherry on your cake, so to speak. And you're bringing the hands right to the heart space. And then to bring the hands down, we're going to reach back up. We're going to use a waterfall here to just get grounded a little bit. We're going to inhale, exhale here. Sometimes I'm just going to stand tall like this. I won't even bend my knees. And I go very slow with my hands. So many different varieties of waterfall, all of them having slightly different qualities, but this one's really good to just, it's very meditative. And the idea here is like bringing not just the energy down. This one works very well, as mentioned earlier, for high blood pressure, also for stress, etc. But it's like bringing the mind and the energy down. Meanwhile, I have strong roots, which will take some practice, but I have strong roots growing down through my feet, down into the ground. You can visualize roots of a tree down there from the feet going into the ground, wrapping around some rocks, however you want to visualize that. But you want to learn to be very heavy on your feet. And it's not about just putting your weight there as much as it is actually putting your mind there. So I'm putting my mind down into my feet, and I'm walking the energy in its direction. Good. And then I'll brush my hands. And just for a moment here, we're going to do a little marching like this. This is good to get grounded after a little set like that. So I actually recommend you add this to the end. We had like warm-up exercises. This would be like your grounding and cool down exercise. But I recommend this kind of stomping on the ground lightly, but you're kind of marching. Okay, helps kind of ground you. And you may notice that that practice makes you feel like a little off, a little woozy, a little dizzy. Any of those kinds of things, those are signs of toxins being stirred up through that practice. It's good news. It means it's working. All right, let's go back to the very beginning of this one. Let's say you go out to the park and you rub your hands together like this. And you're going to stand next to the tree, like so, okay? What's a good starting amount of time? Anywhere from 1 minute to 3 minutes. If you have the ability to do 5 minutes, go for it. You want to try 10 minutes? Go for it. But somewhere between 1 minute, 3 minutes for the average person, that's a good one. This is going to open up the gut. This is going to open up that intuition. This is going to charge that lower battery. And again, in the first set, we did a waterfall right here, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to kind of stick with this second set the way I showed you the second time around, where right from here, we decide, okay, I'm going to do one more practice. Look where the energy is, okay? You're working with your lower belly. This is lower Dantian. We elevate the energy by coming up, and now we're at the level of the heart. Okay, this is middle Dantian. So we're moving the energy up. Okay. What's a good practice for this? 1 minute to 3 minutes. Like I said, then from there you can build up. These types of exercises build a subtle energy, really high quality energy. So in this set that I'm teaching you here today, now we brought the energy up to the middle Dantian, and then we're actually taking our hands, we're coming back here to the hips. One reason for that is to help you come into a feeling of power, a sense of power, and also groundedness. Because as you raise up that energy from the lower Dantian to middle Dantian, like we just did, some of you will get a little saucy. If you put this power pose in the middle, okay, it brings you back to getting grounded. This also helps open up, as I said, the gallbladder. So this is good for developing courage. Gallbladder is associated with courage in a positive sense. It is. Right there, I get a nice breath change personally. I just felt pretty good there. That breath snuck in. So also know that this is working with lower Dantian, because look, we're back down in lower Dantian, aren't we? We're in the vicinity of lower Dantian. And I told you that lower Dantian is associated with kidneys and Jing. So you're back to working on your Jing, you're back to working on your power, you're back to helping your gallbladder. So many juicy things going on there. And then right from here, the way that we just did this second round was then we came right here into the waterfall. This is where we insert the waterfall, our fourth exercise. another grounding exercise, but also a gathering of the heavens exercise, and then putting it into earth. Gathering of the heavens, putting it into the earth. And then our fifth exercise, we take the hands, we go straight up to whatever capacity you can do that. You're now telling the energy to go up your spine. You're also actually telling the energy to come up all the way up through your feet, up through your lower Dantian, up through your middle Dantian, into your upper Dantian. In case you wanted to know some of the secrets behind the practice, there's a few details. Now you've got all this energy, you're building up this subtle energy. What do you want to do with it? One of the things that I recommend you do with it, it sets a nice tone for going out into the world. Bring the hands to the heart space. Now, whatever words that you liked earlier, maybe you liked the word forgiveness, maybe you liked the word give it up to the Holy Spirit, maybe you liked the word compassion, maybe you liked the word ahimsa, maybe you like the words, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Maybe you like Lao Tzu's words, practice doing nothing. You can think thoughts like that and whisper words like that on the level of the mind. You could even whisper them out loud if you desire. Meanwhile, breathing, attempting to activate and awaken heart space. Just like there's spaciousness in your gut, although not for the average person, on a daily basis, they don't have access to spaciousness. That's why we need practice. But it's there. You also have a spaciousness, often called heart space, right here. It's not just in the chest and the chest cavity, although it's there too. It's in the energetic heart space. Think of somebody right now in your life, because you're charged now. You have some charge, you have some energy. Think of somebody in your life. And we're going to say to them on the level of the mind, and feel it in your heart. If you can and you desire to feel it in your heart to whatever degree that you do, think of that person, think of their house, their home, whatever the case may be. I offer you love. I offer you light. I offer you joy. I offer you kindness. I offer you compassion. I offer you healing. I offer you peace. I offer you love. I offer you light. I offer you joy. I offer you kindness. I offer you compassion. I offer you healing. I offer you peace. Inhale, exhale, imagine your auric field is stretching itself, your aura around your body is stretching itself, making itself big, reaching out into the world. Radiating like the sun. And exhale your breath, reach down toward the ground. We can use that waterfall to settle and ground ourselves. We can also use our marching exercise. Good, and just brush your hands like this. Pull that energy off your head and your face. Clap your hands. And let's get a little water or tea, your choice. All right. So if anybody has any questions at home or here, we're going to go into, I'm going to show you a little, we're going to do another little meditation from seated position. And then one more time before we leave, I'll take you through that set again, just to give you a third or fourth time to practice through it. But also, if anybody at home has any questions about anything, really, but also anything that I said, because I rattled off quite a bit in terms of forgiveness, compassion, homeostasis, etc. But if you have any questions, please ask. And Taylor will be over there monitoring the computer. You can't see him, but I can. And if you have something, he will let me know. Do any of you have a question about anything that I said? Because if you have one, I'm sure somebody else has the same thing. So.
Do you offer virtual sessions?
Yes, I do offer virtual sessions. In fact, this is an interesting concept to bring in. Because it is actually, you reminded me, thank you, of something I actually wanted to demonstrate a little bit. We're going to demonstrate it with Keith here in a moment. So, in fact, Keith, why don't you come hang out right here? And Taylor, let us know if he's in camera, either side, whatever side is comfortable. Yeah, okay. So, strike the first pose. Yeah. So, this is very interesting, you know. How energy can be felt over distances. So as far as how I do some of my personal and private work, I'm very intuitive, so I can kind of feel into, if so to speak, people's energy in their bodies and so on. So I'm not going to go into that right now, but I kind of want to show you guys a little something. Keith's just holding this posture. But you know what's really interesting about Qigong practice? You all can make this practice more potent for him. And those of you who are in the room, I just want you to just kind of watch what's going on. I don't want you to participate in it. I just want the people at home to do it. So just so we can see this, okay? So people at home, whenever you're ready, I want you to point your finger in medical Qigong, it's called a sword finger. It's a finger of light. I want you to point that finger roughly to where you think Keith's belly button is, which is somewhere in between his hands there. And at home, if you desire and you want to try it, I want you to literally go ahead and I want you to start pointing at his navel center. And let's just see what happens. Well, I can tell you one thing, his breath is changing significantly. He just got a very deep, charged breath. That's my simple explanation for it. The breath will get thick with heat and with charge. It's continuing. If your one hand gets tired, just pick up your other hand and use your other hand. You can switch from hand to hand, doesn't matter which hand you use. You can't hear that breath, but I can, and I know what's going on in that breath. He's getting shaky inside. And big swallow. So now those of you that are in the room, I want you guys to point also. Yeah, he's already getting visibly shaky, so I want you guys to point also now, those of you who are here. So yep, go ahead and point with intention. Another shift and swallow there, deeper breath happening there. Now, Keith, on an inhale, y'all relax your hands for a moment. On an inhale, raise your hands straight to the sky. So he's a rocket now. He's going to do this particular exercise that we just did. And now again, everybody at home, everybody here other than me, go ahead and point at Keith's navel center, roughly the navel. You're aiming for the navel. Lower Dantian, the vicinity of lower Dantian. And then just for fun, I'm not going to look, but I'm going to add something too. Can hear some adjustments happening there in his body. I can feel breath changing. I can feel that shakiness. I can also hear it in his breath. Now, you can see his hands shaking a little bit. You guys relax your hands at home. Keith, go ahead and let your hands drop, hit the thighs, and then be still. Okay, now watch right here, guys. He has to stay anchored in his feet. He's been doing Qigong with me for a while. I feel comfortable with him doing this. I wouldn't do this to somebody first day in class or something, okay? But anyway, so he's anchored to his feet. There's a lot of juice happening there right now. You all helped him go deeper meditation, deeper Qigong practice, more energy. He radiates that back out to you. Even those of you at home, and how the heck does that work? Does it come through the camera? Not exactly, no. But mind is a field. Do you know that a beetle on this side of the earth is connected to a beetle on the other side of the earth? Their energy fields are connected. You as human beings are connected. Gravity reaches from where? Here to the moon, here to the sun, etc. Okay? All right. 3 breaths there to Keith.
Has to do with breathing. What is the benefit of breathing through your mouth versus nose, as well as taking pauses in between breaths?
Yes, excellent question. So, and an important question and answer. So, first of all, when we're moving our bodies, the benefit of exhaling through the mouth is whenever we want to exert any type of something leaning in the direction of external power. It could still be internal power, but it's moving in the direction of having an external influence. If I'm going to push a refrigerator, even if it's a pretend refrigerator, I'm not going to inhale and try and push it. I'm going to exhale and push it. So when we make movements in Qigong practice and we exhale, and we want a little more strength and a little more physical body activity to strengthen the bones, the tendons, etc. Also for dispersion purposes, clearing and cleansing the liver, other organs, we exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the nose, we exhale through the mouth. When we're doing a static, typically when we do a static posture, we'll breathe in through the nose, out through the nose. There's no reason for any of the other because there's no exertion. There's no extra exertion, okay? And then the reason that there is a pause, we want to inhale through the nose, and then actually when we get better at the practice, a lot of times we'll actually hold the breath in our lower Dantian because for a second or 2 seconds or 3, in more advanced training, longer, because it is said that Qi rides on the breath. So if you carry the breath down into this area we've been talking about, we said it's a battery, and you were to take an inhale through your nose, hold the breath there for 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, which will take time. Most people can't do it that long, but if you could, you're feeding it that Qi, that life force. There are physicists who say that that we're living in this like bioelectric field, this bioelectric matrix. And so when you're breathing this in, that's what the prana and the chi is. Like, it's electrified energy. It's not just oxygen and nitrous oxide and carbon dioxide, which a lot of the breathing people talk about, you know, the physical breathing people. But there's that extra component that's there. In India, it's called prana. So, excellent question. There's your answer.
Last question.
Take 3 breaths, wiggle fingers, toes.
I felt a lot of shaking inside of me that I couldn't control. What, in your opinion, is happening here?
Excellent. What is happening is... Oh, okay, yes, great, yes. So somebody asked that they're experiencing some shaking when they're practicing, and they don't feel like they have any control over it, like something weird's going on there, so to speak. They didn't say weird, I'm saying weird. So that's Qigong, and there are 2 principles within Qigong practice that are important. One is gathering energy, gathering this bioelectric energy, okay? And whether we call it ki, prana, chi, jing, gathering this energy. The other one, though, is that we need to be grounded. That's why I'm always talking about, we did this exercise, we did that, now let's like march our feet, okay? That's also why I'm not going to take somebody who's brand new and put them here and have everybody in the room point fingers at the person, because this person's going to get lit up. And that shaking is awesome in terms of irrigating the meridians, opening up the chakra centers, elevating consciousness, elevating the mood, all of it. Except for people who are still ungrounded and dealing with emotional debris, and they're not familiar with that territory. So because you're practicing, this is in direct answer to that direct question, because this person is practicing with us all, there's more energy. It's like, whoa, I'm not, even if she practices on her own, it's like, whoa, what is going on? There's like energy here, right? I'm not used to this much energy. I also created a specific set with a specific intention. Every single one of you that's doing the set, you're putting energy into the energy ball, so to speak, that's out there. So it's a lot of energy. And those of you who've done longer programs with me, like the longer we go, the more amped it gets, right? And sometimes, like, the more advanced the practitioners are who come, it gets higher and higher, because they can do that thing, stay grounded and go higher. Whereas you bring a beginner, they start to go high, and then they go, holy cow, I'm like high. I'm like, whoa. So what to do? Don't do too much. Too much too fast, no good. Back it off, do the marching. Also practice just this waterfall, inhale, exhale. Go out, walk your feet on the grass, sit on the floor. What goes up must come down. You're not going to stay like that. It's not going to be an ongoing thing. And one last little piece is that people like that who have, they also will tend more quickly to like anxiety. And so when you finish your Qigong practice, bring your hands down to your lower belly and really hold that lower Dantian for a good 5 minutes. And that'll also help situate things and help get you grounded. Got another one?
One more. I feel the tingling on my fingertips during practice. Can I then point to any ill part of my body with healing intention?
Yes. So here's the... Yeah, so here's what I would have you understand about you feel this tingling in your hands, and you're wondering, can I like point that now in any direction for healing? Yes. In general, yes. A little more specific, typically we won't feel tingling in our hands or warmth or heat or things like this in our hands until that lower belly gets charged. Think about it, it's very similar when you go out into life and it's cold outside and you have gloves on and your hands are getting cold and whatever. It's because your core is getting cold. Qigong is very similar. When you start feeling like you got hot hands, you got tingly hands, you have charged hands, in fact, that's what, quote unquote, made me a healer. I started practicing all these different practices, and literally, I just remember going like, I just feel like my hands want to go out and heal. They were so charged. And at the same time, yes, can you put them on your knee? Can you put them on your ankle? Can you put them on your low back? 100% yes. That's also why, though, I place such an emphasis on starting with lower Dantian, because, again, if there's no charge in that battery, your hands are going to be cold. There's going to be no charge in your hands. Your healing power is going to be diminished. Okay, Keith, how did that feel for you? What do you? Here, speak into the microphone.
So for me, I mean, initially when everybody pointed to my lower Dantian from the screen, you know, I felt a big rush of energy, and you know, my breath changed immediately. It was like as soon as he said point, it happened immediately. I got a huge breath, and he pointed out the one that came, you know, 20, 30 seconds later too, but there were a series of them. So I just felt energy kind of rising and rushing through me, and you know, with that comes like those stuck emotions and things. And as I stood there with my hands up even further, you know, I was getting tightness in kind of liver, kidneys area in the lower right. I have a lot of stagnation there. I always feel that when I stand in standing postures, but it happened really quickly as opposed to, you know, standing for 40 minutes where it would take that long to feel that.
So he's pointing something out there that some of you may not know, and that is that when you're practicing Qigong practice and you have more energy available to you, which is what he just said, and he was saying he got there quicker with your help, what he found was he found the stagnation. But what I want to point out, for those of you who don't know and don't understand, that's what Qigong does. When you practice the Qigong, it is going to point out to you, where is that stagnation? He just told you where his stagnation is, and he found it. And he found it quicker than he usually finds it because there's extra energy coming his way. This is an important thing. A lot of people will practice Qigong and then they go, oh, I have this ache now on my side. It wasn't there before. Yes, it was there. You didn't know it was there. And now your awareness of it is growing. And you realize, hey, that's stuck. And then from there, you can work through that further. Anything else you wanted to say, Keith?
Yeah, I guess only with like the stuckness, I felt it sort of lower in the beginning, like towards my hip, and then it sort of moved up higher towards the liver towards the end of that as I was, as my hands were kind of up. But that's kind of it.
Nice, thank you. You can have a seat. So yeah, so there you go. So just a little quick demonstration, relatively quick demonstration of, you know, the phenomena of Qi and mind. You know, there are many, many studies being done these days on this kind of stuff. Some pretty mind-blowing studies, actually. I mentioned some of them from years ago in my book where people were blessing plants or water or cursing plants or bacteria from a distance. Like, this has been known for quite some time. But there's some wild stuff coming out right now. Like, well, they'll take white blood cells from like the mouth and the saliva. They'll somehow get these white blood cells and put them in like a petri dish or something. And literally the person will be some number of miles away or whatever the case is. And that person, how's this for wild? That person can literally start watching like a scary movie, like a horror movie or something, and it starts influencing the cells in that dish and starts compromising them. Whereas had that person been watching something positive, yada, yada, also, I mean, anyway, there's just some wild stuff. But because mind, a lot of people are like, how is this even possible? Because as physicists will say, and the Buddhists agree with this, mind is everything, mind is everywhere. And everything is made up of mind. My body is made up of mind. The camera is made up of mind. The computer is made up of mind. The computer is mimicking things that our mind can do. You know, so when you're pointing your finger, it's like, this is the aim of what? Your finger? No, it's the aim of your mind. It's the focus of your mind. What are you focused on? It's all that matters. You know, quantum physicists are saying that whatever we focus on, we influence it in the direction that we intend to influence it, okay? And the stronger the mind, the more powerful it is. So all these years, it's something I've been practicing. Qigong is one of the disciplines that I use to strengthen my mind, as is meditation, as is martial art. Training the mind is essential because your focus and your ability to focus, not for 1 second, not for 2 seconds, but for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever the thing is, 20 minutes, an hour. That's what makes things, like if we sat there and you all had the ability and I kept kind of waking you up and whatever, okay, point back at Keith again, okay, take a deep breath, keep pointing at Keith, you'd be amazed at how much energy you could create out of that kind of dynamic. So when we do things like our distance healing program, or we focus on someone who's sick over there, or however you want to think about that, your ability, and that's the difference between a beginner and a quote-unquote master, whatever level of beginner, is the ability to focus over a period of time. Makes a significant difference. So with these poses and these postures that we did, which I'm going to run you through one more time before we go here, but when you do these, remember what I said here, just practice it for 1 minute to 3 minutes. And again, if maybe you're somebody that like you're getting too much energy from practicing 3 of those at a time, just do 1 or 2, you know. And again, if you are getting too much energy, just come back to like the waterfall practice, come back to stomping the feet and get grounded. But let's go through this one more time for everybody at home before we run out of time. And let's do it one more time if you want to, otherwise you can just watch us go through it. And again, as I said in the beginning, now you have a little bit more of an idea. Don't underestimate these subtle practices. They're very, very potent. Create a lot of energy, okay? So our very first one, I'm going to skip the warm-ups. You can go back and look at the video later. Should be up by Monday on YouTube. So, but holding here is number 1. Charging. And see, to me, I consider this a practice of forgiveness, ahimsa, etc. Because like, I used to do this, I still do, the wee hours of the morning. Just minding my own business. Not fighting with anybody, I'm not conflicting with anybody, I'm just building up my own chi, clearing up my own energy field, you know? So then we're going to raise this one up to the middle Dantian. This is our second one. Inhale deep there if you can. I'm going to place hands on hips here. So this is our third exercise. And I'm just simply calling this one a power pose. Doesn't exactly have a name that I'm aware of anyway. Then this one in our school we call a waterfall. It's like imaging water here, big column of water coming down over your head, running down onto the rocks. Exhale your breath. And this is one of those that I do recommend where you inhale through the nose and here you exhale through the mouth, and there's a certain degree of push. And if you add the sound, by the way, here of shh, this further detoxifies the liver. One more of those. I bring my feet together, arms to the sky, whatever's comfortable for you. Make sure knees stay slightly bent. That tells all the energy, run up to the sky, run through my spine. That'll definitely activate some shakiness in you, so make sure you're grounded. Bring your hands back to here. When I do an exercise, any one of these exercises, especially as a beginner, it's very important and it takes time. Place your mind in your feet. What does that mean? Place your attention on your feet first, then on creating heart space here. Don't get so focused on creating heart space that you're forgetting you have these feet growing down into the ground. And again, any one of these practices, including the whole set, can be done from seated in a chair. So any day you're feeling a little, not as strong, not as up to it, not as grounded, sit in a chair. Inhale, exhale, deep. This is very, very interesting. These practices not that long ago on our planet were totally secret and not given to the general public. Not in China, not anywhere. They were literally secret. Even in China, where you think Qigong is accepted, 8.5 million people practicing Qigong every day in the park, reportedly. They're constantly trying to shut it down, dumb it down, make it go away. Maybe there's something to it. Inhale, exhale. And let it go. Thank you so much for joining me today. I want to thank again the Love, Peace, Amen Foundation for making it possible for us to be here today. Thank you all for coming in and practicing with me, and thank you all at home. Spread the love. So practice, practice. Again, the video should be up on YouTube either tomorrow or Monday, at least by Monday anyway. And practice, practice, Hope you enjoyed it and hope you tune in again soon. Look forward to seeing you in another program. Thanks so much. Have a great day.